Welcome to the Stevenson University Library Nursing tutorial on turning information into projects. Being able to synthesize and transfer information is important, but that's not the end of the research process. Almost every academic project will require that you take the information you've found and create a project with it. By the end of this tutorial, you'll be able to list some common types of academic projects, understand the basic organization of a research paper or article, understand some ways to keep yourself organized as you're doing your research, and explain how the ethics of information use are important in nursing. Let's take a look at some common ways in which you will communicate your research. In nursing, a literature review is a common assignment. It may be the first part of a research paper, or it may be an entire assignment by itself. Remember those secondary sources and reviews that we discussed in the second tutorial? Those are literature reviews. In this kind of assignment, you would describe and summarize the current scholarship in a specific field on a particular topic. To write a literature review, you would gather primary research on your chosen topic. You might divide your paper to focus on a variety of areas, such as study methodologies, different study focuses, or results across the various sources you review. Another common assignment is a research paper. This type of project is more extensive than a literature review, although a literature review may be the first part of it. A research paper is your opportunity to synthesize and articulate the ideas that you noticed while doing research. You'll take the articles and sources that you found and use that research to prove your idea, thesis, or plan. Research papers vary depending on the course level and requirements. In introductory courses, the topic of a research paper is usually fairly simple or discrete. You should be able to find multiple sources to pick from that will answer your research question. In upper-level courses, the topic of a research paper is usually more complex. You may need to look for more articles and synthesize or transfer the information from them, as discussed in the last tutorial. These research papers often have a longer page count and require more sources. For some of your assignments, the final project may be a presentation instead of a traditional research paper. The process of doing research and writing the content for a presentation will be similar to a paper. In both cases, you'll need to find existing research and then use that research to back up what you say in the presentation. However, your finished presentation will be very different from a research paper. Presentations are often created using software like Microsoft PowerPoint, Google Slides, or Canva. You'll need to adjust your writing style for verbal delivery rather than written, and you may need to include images or video clips to draw your audience's attention. Presentations are a great way for nurses to build knowledge and communicate research findings to peers. This interactive approach is popular at nursing conferences because nurses can share new research while inviting constructive criticism and questions from other nurses. Publishing articles is another way to share research and experience. Articles that you write with the intent of publishing are often similar to research papers. In fact, some students take papers or ideas they've developed in class and submit them for publication. However, journals often have more rigorous requirements than your instructor. You may need to make adjustments to the format or scope of your project. In the field of nursing, there are two types of publications: scholarly journals and trade publications. These tutorials have mostly focused on scholarly journals since they contain peer-reviewed articles that serve as good sources for academic projects. Trade publications are slightly different. They're geared toward working nurses or people who are in the trade of nursing and usually do not contain peer-reviewed articles. Instead, the information in trade publications includes things like updates, best practices, new developments, news, and press releases related to the nursing profession. Trade publications are a good avenue if you would like to publish information that isn't a full research study or doesn't need to go through peer review. Research articles published in scholarly journals usually have a similar format. They include an introduction and/or literature review, methods or methodology, results, discussion and/or conclusion, and a list of references or citations. The introduction and literature review sections give the paper context, why the research is needed, how it fits in with current research, and where it falls in the timeline of a specific field. They provide background and context for the current research, explain possible gaps in past research, and summarize the sources being reviewed. Visit stevenson.libguides.com/literature reviews for more information on literature reviews. The methods or methodology section details the methods and design of a research project by explaining how the experiment or research was conducted. The results, discussion, and conclusion sections are the core of the paper. The specific details of these sections will vary, but the main point is to objectively state the research results and explain or interpret the results. The discussion and conclusion are especially important because the authors will explain what they learned in their research, how the information is useful for nursing, and what they might do next with the information. Note that these terms can change from field to field, and not all sections are necessary in all fields. Remember from the previous tutorial that it's important to extract the important parts of a research article, including the main themes or ideas. You'll also want to extract portions for use in quotes, paraphrases, or summaries. To create a successful research project, you'll need to be organized along the way. This means keeping track of your sources, taking detailed notes, refining your topic as you deepen your research, creating outlines, and mapping the general ideas in the article. Creating an outline or a main idea map will allow you to piece together information and clearly see the information that you still need. For nursing students, we often recommend Noodle Tools, which is available via the library website. With Noodle Tools, you can create an account where you keep track of your sources, create virtual note cards, organize those note cards into an outline, and generate in-text citations and reference list entries for use in your project. To learn more, visit stevenson.libguides.com/noodletools. The act of gathering information and passing it along to your instructor, peers, or patients has certain ethical elements you should consider. As a nurse, it's your responsibility to ensure that your patients get the best care possible. This means checking your information for accuracy before you administer care. If other nurses advise you on treatment methods, be sure to double-check that the information is accurate and current. It's better to be safe by double-checking rather than to take the chance that something will go wrong with your patient's treatments. Likewise, don't share information with other nurses without making sure it's grounded in current evidence. Congratulations, you are prepared to turn your information into a project now that you are able to list some common types of academic projects, understand the basic organization of a research paper or article, understand some ways to keep yourself organized as you're doing your research, and explain how the ethics of information use are important in nursing. Thank you for watching. Contact the library if you'd like assistance. If you'd like to share feedback on this tutorial, you can do so at the link or QR code on your screen.